Hello and welcome back to the Bad Back Gardener. In this video we're going to be taking a look at how I control or keep my tomato plants in the raised beds and not flopping into the aisleways. Right now they're getting so big that they were over into the aisleways and growing shut. Some of the aisles I couldn't even walk through. So I wanted to come up with something that is going to be able to hold them back into the thing, and then I can tie them up, tie my tomato plants up. I could put a stake in each one in the ground. That tends to work, but it pulls the stakes over sometimes. What I've done in the past is I've taken the green vinyl coated fencing, and I'll use that, which I did in some of these beds, as you may have seen, which I really like. It works good. It gives you a lot of places to tie off to, and they grow up and they'll grow in between the wires and stuff and kind of hold themselves up in some cases. I used to, in my old garden, I'd have a 4x4 planted into the ground with some eye bolts, and then I'd have a cable run between them to hold the green fencing up. So I've kind of adapted a little version of that here into the raised bed. I didn't want to sink posts in on every one, so I will show you what I did here to come up with a solution how I want to hold up my tomatoes. So we'll take a look at that. Okay, so what I've done is I've went and got some electrical conduit, 3/4 inch electrical conduit, and I've got some straps to strap it to the wood, and I got some other connectors. They're mounting connectors, but I'll show you what I did here. So I've got the 5-foot piece of 3/4 inch conduit, and then I've got straps on the bottom, if you can see that, and that holds it, screwed that into the side of the raised bed. Then up here where I want to put my cable, I've taken a strap, a mount. This is actually just it's a regular mounting strap that you would use to mount it to like a ceiling or something. So on one, you put it in your thing, and on one side it's got a hole to screw through, and then you put your cable in and fasten, or your conduit in and fasten it. I'm using it here to hold my cable, which I bought some 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch cable, and it's galvanized. And I've taken and I've run the cable through the hole. As you can see on this side, there's a hole, and got a cable clamp in there. Then I've ran it to the other side, which I've mounted another pole on the other side. So I've got a cable going from one pole to the other, and they're screwed into the raised beds here. So that from one side to the other. So then I tried to put in the cable as tight as I could between the two, and that's going to hold up my green fencing. And I've already went through and tied off my plants. So I've tied them back against the fencing, which holds them out of the aisles, and we don't have to worry about them flopping down. It'll hold the tomatoes off the ground and keep the garden neater. So I did that on most of the beds here, but two of the beds, the tomatoes grew too big, too fast, and I never got my green fencing in, and I didn't want to try and mess around trying to bend them back. And sometimes you break a lot of plants or something doing that. It's best to get your green fence in as early as you can when you planted tomatoes. And I did that with some of my beds, but some of the earlier plantings I did not get that in. By the time I uncovered the row cover, they were way too big and intertangled to try and do that with. So in this case, what I've done with these ones is I've done the same exact thing, only I'm running more cable between them. So these are the step down beds. So I've got a cable down there, or a conduit down there, and conduit up here in each of these two beds here. I've ran multiple cables down through I fished them through the tomato plants, and then when I tied them back, I just started here and tied them, then I'd connect onto the cable, and in the middle I put a stake I put a green stake that I tied the cable to as well to firm it up a little bit. And so that's how I tied these plants back. So I'll just continue doing that as they get bigger, keep tying them to these two cables here in each one. And I did the same thing in this other bed. I will show you. So that's the same thing on that bed there. So I have one more cable, one more bed to do here, and it's not too bad. It's still pretty firm yet. I've got the cable, or I got the conduit in on this side over here. This side's already got the conduit in. This side actually has my beans, but I still want to attach my other conduit way down the other end of the beans and run my cable from one piece to the other, because this section here of tomatoes ends right in the middle of the bed, so I need something better to support them with. As you can see, this is a little bit wiggly, and I'm afraid once they get a lot of tomatoes on them, they'll flop over, and it's harder to tie them that way. So I'm going to go ahead and put my conduit down at this section here, and then run my cable. So I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so I want to come up about a foot. I want to be a foot between the end of it here and the top here. So that gives me about 4 foot high for my posts. Then I'll put another clamp at the bottom. So I want to try and hold it both sides in there. Try and get it as straight as possible. That makes it nice and rigid. Now, what I'll do, I'll get my hangers out here. And that's all it is this little hanger. Normally you'd put the screw through there, screw it to something, and that's how you'd hang your conduit. So I'll just loosen up my bolt. Loosen up the bolt, and I can slide it down over the conduit. Holds it nice and stiff there. Okay, so now it's time to run the cable between my connector here and the other one on the other side. So I've got my 1/8 inch galvanized cable, and I need some clamps. Little clamps here. And that puts the cable through. So you gotta put your clamp on first, then you put the cable up through and bend it over. Then you put the bent piece of cable into the clamp and tighten the clamp. That'll hold it firm on this side. Now we run the cable from here over to the other side and try and make it as tight as possible. Try not to get any kinks in the cabling. And do the same thing over here. Put your clamp on first and put it up through. Now on this one, we're going to try and pull it as tight as we can get it. And then put your other end in, bend in through the clamp. Tighten your clamp. Make sure we got it nice and tight here. Actually caught up in that a bit. I think I might be able to pull a little bit more through now. Okay, got the cable in. Pretty tight. Nice and tight, nice and solid. I'll go back and I'll tie the green fencing now to this cable. That way the green fencing will be nice and sturdy, and then I can tie off my plants to the green fencing, which actually in this section I've already tied my plants to the green fence once. So, and they're still not in rows too bad. They're still pretty upright. So I probably don't need to retie them. I just want to tie the green fence to this cabling. Okay, we got her nice and sturdy now. It can't go anywhere without pulling that whole thing down, which it's not going to do. And now I would take a string and tie it to this side, run it around this way, and just kind of tuck it back into the fence every now and then, the whole way around it, and that'll hold my tomatoes in, and they'll just keep growing more upright. Okay, let me show you what that looks like. Show you what we got here. So there's your cable running through. We got her tied, the stake and the fence, to the cabling the whole way over here. Okay, so we got our tomatoes all tied up and growing more upright now instead of into the owl-ways. And I'm kind of happy with my plan here of what I came up with to hold them in. The conduit looks pretty good. It doesn't look too bad in the garden, and it was pretty easy to do. So thanks for watching. Catch up with me on Facebook, and if your back ain't hurting, you ain't working.